I consider my curiosity to be one of my strongest points. If you tell me that Dustborn tastes like cyanide and plays like polio, I very much need to know why, and I will deposit $30 into the hands of the faceless company that made it. So imagine my surprise when I go into Dustborn expecting glitches or opposable beards and end up with the video game version of a long, uncomfortable car ride. And after a few hours, I was like, oh, that's why this stuff kills cats. Dustborn immediately hit the wall when a few clips on Twitter popped up, which shows the game as a culture war hit piece about epic, radical young people talking about phasing out the olds to make way for them. A nice, mean-spirited, rebellious message, if you ignored that they're all in their 30s and 40s. But I have barely seen anything beyond those clips, so that's what this is. You get to be the refined Dustborn hater. I played the game from start to finish. I didn't like it. Occasionally there were good moments, and I could even imagine a specific kind of person that would like the game. However, in between every good moment was another where I was shown things that apparently only 12 people on Steam have seen. Oh my god, how does the world not know about Manga I? Also, to make one thing clear, I don't care about the leftism in this game. The Last of Us 2 is one of my favorite games. This video is not meant to spam the words woke at you. It's a video meant to actually dissect Dustborn and at least give them a deeper understanding of what they're hating. Hell, I consider myself left-leaning and I couldn't stand this game. From the awful combat to the infinitely hateable characters. Fuck, I don't even know if devout leftists are gonna like it when they find out Dustborn's tech is provided by Mr. All of the women in my games are allegedly whores. Dustborn is a narrative action game, combining the slower-paced dialogue from Life is Strange, action beat-em-up sections, and Guitar Hero moments. It was created by Norwegian developer Red Thread Games with the intention of, quote, showing the power of words. I will admit that today is a bit more of a movie night. The first positive thing I can say about Dustborn is that you get your money's worth. There's enough levels and content to last you a while. The other reason for the movie night is that some of Dustborn really does just need to be seen to be believed. Ready to get started? Okay, hold on, 1 second. Okay, I'm ready. The game opens with you nursing a bullet wound as your gang comes off of a botched heist. We play as Pax, a con woman looking to find her fortune and a new place to settle down, alongside her groupies, Sai, Pax's roommate, Gnome, a non-binary person that Pax has on and off flings with, and Theo, a newcomer to the group looking to make some money by pairing up with them. The other thing you will notice is that none of these fucking people like each other. Sai is so insanely hung up with anxiety that she is forcing us to listen to her K-pop, Theo is losing his mind over it, Gnome is too busy waxing poetic, and Pax is so angry that she uses psychic powers to shut them all up. See, these characters are anomal, or divergent. In the world of Dustborn, there was an event called The Broadcast. Anyone who listened to this broadcast was blessed with supernatural powers directly tied to the words they speak. Hence why, when we get pulled over by a cop, Oh, I just can't help myself.
You're a loser.
Not warning you again. Get
Sir,
out!
Please don't walk into...
Pax has the power to make other people upset or angry. It can be used to hurt others' feelings, but it can also be used to inflict violence in roundabout ways. We also just keep driving after the cop got splattered, because I guess no one else was on the road, and the guy that did the splattering didn't want to stop either. Nah, it's cool. We hit a cop right in front of another car. I hope they're a group of left-leaning rebels that would have reasons to not call that in. The goal of our gang is to deliver a flash drive containing sensitive data across a dilapidated America, starting in California, now called Pacifica, and going east until we hit Nova Scotia in Canada. Or, as this map says, socialists. The game takes place in an alternate version of America that's divided into several different sections. Think Civil War, but thank fucking God the Norwegians knew to sink Florida. America is full of checkpoints and full of cops asking plenty of questions, so the gang comes up with a cover story. They're a band on tour. We take some cover after the luckiest hit and run on Earth to rest at Gnome's VR chat apartment. To get some stuff out of the way, I'm alright with the visuals. The room is a bit empty, but there's a ton of color and quiet ambience to it. Dare I even say the V word. Dustborn takes a lot of inspiration from comic books. From font style to character art to certain writing tropes, you can even read a short story about how they got to the heist. However, they also like to put up these fucking boxes that tell us what Pax is thinking. Getting an honest reaction from these characters is like pulling teeth, so whenever Pax isn't saying something, you can normally read it. You can also use it to get a preview on what the dialogue options really mean. But Dustborn thinks I have two brains because it expects me to read the fucking dialogue, listen to the dialogue, and forgive the dialogue all at the same time. It does lighten up later in the game, however it can be very overwhelming when it does do this, especially if you have subtitles in there, turning the screen into this overwhelming mess, and it sets a pretty bad standard. Speaking of standards, I hate everyone in this room right now. There has been non-stop fighting, and it's not like illegal to write that, but a breath of fresh air would have been nice. We arrive at La Torre, a sort of underground base for a resistance group known as the Weave. No, not that one. The Weave is, it's the internet. You know how the internet isn't technically a place, but several hundreds of thousands of places sending information back and forth? The Weave is that, but each server and its information are stored in underground bunkers. And there's only maybe a handful of them in the US, so almost nobody has access to it. It's helmed by optimistic people that want to see the world restored to a more cohesive place, meaning they reinvented the web without the joy. Each server is tended to by a person called a librarian. La Torre is here to set us up with a bus and the supplies to make our pilgrimage across the United States. You know, change our bloody shirt, the works. The game actually controls quite well in these sections. I know you're wondering how a game that is just walking and scolding could have controls, but as someone who plays a lot of video games, I've come to really hate when they don't get the simple stuff right. The camera always smoothly slows into place to keep it from looking jerky. PAX feels realistically weighty, and it makes the world feel a lot more natural, and the zoom in button does good work too. Conversations aren't like cutscenes that pop between characters' faces. You have total control over the camera in almost every conversation. You can slide the camera and place it wherever you'd like, but the game also gently magnetizes to spots that would best display the action. It sounds cheap, but I actually really appreciated it over the course of the game. The whole thing feels natural. The only problem is that sometimes there are too many characters in a conversation, and it's hard to find a camera angle that complements all of them. Alright, let's swing the pendulum the other way. We could spend all of these cutscenes talking to the worst people on the planet. One of the writing tenets I hold to is that you should try really hard to hook the audience on the character in their opening moments. Find bits that show their positive qualities to get the audience on that character's side, so that when we have to question their actions, we still care about them. Technically, any writing rule can be broken. I wouldn't say you have to write this way, but it would have helped a great deal when dealing with characters like this. And when I say like this, I mean argumentative people that are also really focused on their inner emotions. Many of the characters in Dustborn feel things but don't share them. Unlike PAX, they don't have a magic little box telling you exactly what they think, and the game expects you to understand what they might be feeling. If you don't pay attention to the dialogue, it's easy to say something really offensive that you would not have recognized as offensive. It's your first high school relationship brought back to you for 30 bucks. And I don't really want to put in all of that mental effort for a girl like Sai, who, at the first sign of police at La Torre, locks herself in the bathroom like a teen temper tantrum. Fine, we'll listen to her.
What's going on with you?
Are you serious? We just did a heist.
We're running out of time.
I know, not helping. Now I'm fucking hyperventilating. Thanks, PAX.
Well, I guess hitting Sai with a truck wouldn't be the worst outcome.
You're letting me down.
Eventually, I just let Gnome handle it. Gnome is the opposite of PAX. Where PAX is the voice in your head telling you to grab the officer's gun, Gnome can take away people's strong emotions to manipulate them. Frankly, that gives Gnome a giant leg up over the other characters, because they've been introduced as a character that fixes problems instead of starting them. Gnome even calms Sai down further by letting them jam out on Fisher-Price toys when there's cops outside. But I'm starting to think everyone in this game lacks object permanence. We get another party member here too, a robot bus driver that PAX is robot racist against. I don't know why. The game is never going to tell you why. It will explain more than enough things to you about PAX, more than you could ever care to know. But not why she hates robots. If it was hidden somewhere, I couldn't find it. So to me, PAX is proof that racism is just something you're born with. Alright, we're riding the bus. The journey is about to start. Gnome, what do you think?
I hate you.
Okay, got it. As we drive the bus, we're stopped by Justice. This is a militaristic force that upholds the law within the strictest order necessary. They're effectively fascists. There's no word around it. There's no term or euphemism you can give them. They all wear the same outfits and dream about eradicating crime. And because I was busy thinking about Sai's cringe meltdown, I forgot to change my bloody shirt, meaning I have no one to blame but myself when suspicions arise, and the gang has to fall back on our cover story. We're a rock band. Yeah, we're gonna impress them. Watch this.
Where the dust storm, this bug is airborne. Where the newborn out
Well, they have one thing in common with porn. Now that that's over, I feel incredibly sad. Finally, this ends at camp. We can walk around the camp, soak in the atmosphere, and recap on the events of the previous chapter. Wait, why does this angle look kind of familiar? It's pretty loaded to try to hit me with lengthy conversations with these people since they've been triggered every other chance I've gotten, but okay. However, for the sake of the video, I think it's time we actually get to know them a little. Sai is a self-described drama queen. Her powers allow her voice to affect her body, giving her super strength. There might be more she can do, but we're never going to ask her to do more because she's Sai. The leopard backpack, her gamer t-shirt, K-pop jacket. You know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of the cast of Y2K, a comparison that would probably make both of these creators very angry. Technically, it's a consistent design. Annoying character, annoying look, they understood what Sai is, and only because I feel compelled to say it, the overweight and vitiligo thing doesn't really bug me. If they want to represent those things, they're more than welcome to, bite me. I like Gnome's design. They have this sort of muted grayness to them. It reflects how their power takes away emotion, and shows off their posh nature. Gnome is an affluent entrepreneur from Hong Kong. I have no idea why they're doing crime if they have an apartment like this, but the company must be great. Generally, Gnome keeps to themselves and reads drama magazines, or wheeled out to fix any situation I fuck up. They can be a little condescending and annoying in their own way, but if I were to make a scale where each character is ranked, Gnome would be on the positive side. Then lastly, there's Theo. Future Rowby is here to spoil. We like Theo. Theo is an interesting character because his relation to the group is purely self-motivated. He's in it to get the job done. However, he also believes that the best way to get the job done is to be close with the gang and get to know them personally. It creates conflict because sometimes he has to make hard decisions that play with the two parts of his personality. They also made extra steps to flesh him out, too. He likes acoustic guitar and country music. He's careful with his diet, but enjoys breaking it at times. He has a sister back home in Mexico. He is somewhat religious. Theo is also the only person in the party without any powers. However, he comes with a knowledge of hacking and lockpicking. So in some cases, he's more useful than the people with powers. The reason I had to say we end the story liking Theo is that you sure as fuck wouldn't have liked him at the start, because the rest of the cast won't stop chiming in with corny jokes. They will not shut up about Theo being a dad. He makes dad jokes. His status in your notebook is dad. The dad thing almost feels like something a fandom would say about a character. Like the writers posted their work on private Twitters and didn't finalize the sheets until they all wrote at least one call-out post on each other. As we try to sleep, we are interrupted by a group called the Horned Raiders, a Mad Max-esque gang that preys on outsiders when justice isn't around. Finally, 2 hours in and we get our first fight. We waited in line for this. What does Dustborn have in terms of combat? Pax has a basic attack, a heavy taunt attack, and a shout attack. For now, we'll talk about the basics. Pax fights with a bat, and it controls like goddamn polio. Remember how we talked about Pax's slow, methodical movement that still feels grounded? Well, they just kept most of that for the combat, which is not great when you're trying to dodge attacks or just maneuver around. Animations can cancel too, and it makes the fighting look terrible. The other problem is that no one shuts the fuck up! I'm going to show you 15 seconds of unedited Dustborn combat, just for reference.
We can end this now if you just walk away.
We don't walk away. We're horned riders.
Sorry, right away.
That's
Do
not
y'all
what I
have
meant.
your own bike?
No, we ride in pairs.
About time you joined in.
Are you talking to me? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I need you to understand, in my entire playthrough of Dustborn, no one ever ran out of things to say. Not here in California, not in the Nevada desert, not in New Jerusalem, not in the Colorado mountains, not in the exclusion zone, not in Nova Scotia did these fucking people ever shut up. The voice work is also just terrible. They project, but they don't have any urgency. It doesn't sound like they're in a fight. And it sounds extra awful because Pax attacks with her words. So every time you do a special move, it's followed by someone rolling their eyes and going, "as I was saying," before robotically returning to their Shakespearean monologue. It's exhausting to describe, and based on how many files I have, think about what it's like to play it. Our first stop on the road trip is Camp Cedar, a small commune that fosters anomals and basics alike. It is also where Pax grew up. which means we're going to learn about her dark backstory. I really can't tell you how much I hate this section without sinking in an ocean of time, because the problem with Camp Cedar is that it slows the already painfully slow story to a halt. The commune has fallen on hard times. Everyone's on edge, and they've started an illicit opium trade. I was kind of getting invested in everyone's journey. Now they've decided to stop all of that. Sideline the characters so that I can meet a bunch of people I will never see again. The main culprit is Pax's mom, Annie. You talk to her for 5 minutes about your other mom's funeral. You talk to her about your sister. You talk to her about your fling with Gnome. You talk to her about where your old toys are. You watch her whip out a shotgun on the girl you used to bully. You talk about feeding the girl you bullied to the sharks and the sharks are her. You talk to her about how much she's gonna miss you, and I don't even think I disliked her at the end. Except Annie isn't the draw of the level. The main draw of Camp Cedar is that we're here to meet Ziggy, Pax's sister, and oh my fucking god.
Nice to see you too, Z.
Oh, sarcasm? A healthy way to deal with conflict.
What? I wasn't. You're the one being sarcastic.
Ziggy is upset because Pax left Camp Cedar without saying anything, only to come back all of these years later. But now Ziggy doesn't want Pax anymore. So we spend most of the level chasing her down to have fragmented parts of the same annoying conversation. And it's like, lady, you're in your 30s. The splash screen gave you up right away. So now, not only did the flow of the plot stop to show us Pax's sweet but boring mom, it's also got us stopping the plot to learn about Ziggy.
Fuck you, go away. Just leave me be. Fine, take it, I don't need it. I don't need you.
Remember Life is Strange and Chloe? She spends most of the game fighting with people, cursing them out, and being a real asshole. Do you remember the first thing she does in that game? Like, the very first, how you meet her. Well, okay, the first time you talk to her. You are getting jumped by a bigger, meaner piece of shit, and she drives in to save you. She then spends the next few minutes excited to see Max. She has a chip on her shoulder because Max also abandoned her several years ago, but we didn't need to know that. The game wanted us to be on her side before they try to push us away. With Ziggy, everything you say to her just gets turned on you.
I'm so sorry.
I hate you. I'll never forgive you.
Alright, a small thing that pisses me off are the subtitles. They seem to capitalize words for no reason at all, and they do it in every sentence. The voice actors don't even say these words harder for emphasis, and sometimes the word isn't even that important. Yes, he's complaining about the subtitles. Maybe I would care in a better game, but you people made me talk to fucking Ziggs. The big gameplay upgrade is that we get the, do I have to? Okay. We get the meme. Scattered around the world are red auras called echoes. These are remnants of the broadcast that don't give people powers, but instead infect them with bad ideas. Racism, paranoia, hatred, and the meme is what Pax refers to as a moderator. Go up to someone with the bad thoughts in their brain, do a quick minigame, and they totally flip in an instant.
Anything's possible.
What was I saying? I deserve love. I'm not a failure. The voices are wrong.
I'm not sure if it helps the brainwashing allegations that ennobles have levied against them, but to be fair, your thoughts were glowing red. These are also located in the world, and if you cleanse enough echoes, Pax gains a new word she can say. To find these, Pax has to put on her headphones, hunt them down, and absorb them. It's sort of a roundabout way of leveling up. The missions in the game are pretty linear, and it wasn't hard to find them. I think I missed one in my whole playthrough. So even when this whole mission is done, there will be one fascist out there somewhere in the Nevada desert, like the little bug from Fairly Odd Parents. There is one thing though, every time you search for echoes, you can detect them by their weird signature glow. But if you turn your head to the horizon, you will see this giant structure. It's only visible when the meme is equipped, and no one comments on it. It's present in this level, the next one, the one after that. We currently have no clues, but based on the nature of the meme and the tree's red glow, I'm going to call this 4chan. The other big moment is when Ziggy gives us a special bat. It's an upgradable piece of equipment and has magnetic functions, allowing us to fight bad guys at range. What is that fucking throwing animation? It looks like she's just pointing her arm at the bad guy and it floats over to them. Actually, all of the animations are bad. Pax swings her bat like it doesn't have any weight behind it. And because her movement is so methodical, the animations are constantly cutting into each other. They didn't seem to work out what Pax should look like when she's in combat. How Pax should block, how she should take a hit, how to make the hits feel weighty. Oh my god, the driving robot is back. Get me out of this place. And Ziggy is forced onto our bus like the miserable toddler she is. Everyone else is fine. Sai is roasting sausages for like 30 minutes. Why can't you cheer up, you little rat? The next level is our first gig. Okay, we're skipping this one. The next level is the Nevada desert.
Keep our heads down and take care of our family.
Dog, come on. We're still doing this? The past several hours have been Ziggy. I hate her. Go away. Your bio says you used to be an Anprim. Go smash some rocks together.
I don't know, kid. I'm almost starting to regret bringing her with us.
Oh my lord, I agree with Pax. That's how annoying this fucking lady is. Stay positive, fellas. Ride through the desert bus, baby. We end up at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, causing our driver robot to spaz out, drive into the distance, and leave us here. I guess Pax's humble routine of abuse and slurs didn't work out. We end up in a spat with more horned riders. But this is also the moment real-time Rowby realized that the characters really are going to talk through every combat sequence.
Anyway, are these the guys we fought the other night?
Who can tell with the masks?
I recognize the moves.
That's probably the Horned Riders playbook. They have a playbook?
I think these bikers fight better than the last bunch.
That's right, those guys were a cakewalk.
Also, they didn't have Molotovs.
Yeah, what's up with that? Throw one cocktail and suddenly everyone's got one.
There's even a Molotov cocktail section. I don't think it needed to be here, but it's here. We track down our bus and end up in a small trailer park before we...
You goddamn bikers murdered my vegetables!
Whoa.
I've been held at gunpoint twice, but Pax really is gonna carry that bat around all game, isn't she?
Where did you get that weapon?
Oh, I found it. Inside one of those trailers. Never even tried to fire the thing. I hate guns.
Are you serious? He has that name, wears that shirt, lives in this trailer park, and he hates guns. Maybe that's the joke, but if that's the case, you could have gone with some better delivery. It turns out he's been living above a giant elevator. However, we choose to split up before going underground. Ziggy will go down the elevator with us. Gnome, Theo, and Sai are staying above ground, because why would I want to know about the main cast when I have Ziggy? Awesome!
What's the matter with you?
Just the first time.
First,
time in an elevator.
don't worry. They're safe.
How will you know? How old is this thing, and how deep does it even go?
Oh, so the former anarcho-primitivist will design a bat that specifically works with magnets but doesn't trust an elevator. This building was a justice-designed school specifically created with the idea of making their own anomals and indoctrinating them into being tools for justice. Here we learn that the pivotal catalyst for America transforming into a fascist hellhole is that JFK did not get assassinated. Instead, the shooter was a bit too far to the left and killed his wife Jackie, causing Kennedy to commit to a whole massive restructuring of American ideals, with an emphasis on stopping crime, hence forming justice. So he saw his wife get shot and went,
Gentlemen, at times like these, our capacity to retaliate must be and has to be massive to deter all forms of aggression.
She thought you were talking about racial stereotypes. Minorities?
No, we're not racist.
Justice is all about diversity.
And inclusion.
I'm not a political expert, alright? I don't know if this was worth it. Maybe write that Reagan was the president who did this. That's a man who would miss his wife. In the school, we are attacked by robots. This is a good point to jump back into combat. As you fight enemies in Dustborn, you charge up a shout attack. This, in theory, is meant to give you a big moment where you rework the battlefield. If you use block, the enemies can't attack. Push knocks them backwards. Discord makes them attack each other. Hoax inflicts damage over time. Bully sucks them towards you. Canceling brings a storm of hate on them and a bunch of new followers who will one day do that to you. It's a profoundly embarrassing mechanic. Follow me for a second. This game was funded by the Norwegian government through an art program that invests money in projects like Dustborn. It's for the purpose of keeping Norway culturally relevant. I bring this up because I cannot think of a thing that will be more culturally dead in a few years than the word trigger. Listen, Norway, I'm telling you guys, you're gonna be a lot cooler after you feel that first high of a drone strike. The problem is that the enemies don't have any variety, which negates a lot of the tactical uses of different shouts. Hell, it barely has any variety, period. See this bat swing? The light attack? This is all Pax has. She can't mix in her heavy attacks or dodge attacks. There are no environmental threats to push enemies into, no word-based affinity system. Hypothetically, this is where the robots would be a mix-up. They've got AirPods in. So when you fight them, you can only affect yourself with your words, not them. Meaning you can still use trigger on yourself to increase the damage you deal. But I pose a question, is it really smart to just reduce all of the options to one? Why not just have sections that have both human and robot enemies in the same fight? You put horned riders down here. They had a fast pass apparently. But every fight is one or the other. If you added them in as a new enemy type, it might have made me blow some dust off of my single brain cell. I would have had to choose between triggering Pax to beat the robots or using another spell to damage more pressing horned riders. I am calling them spells, by the way. The game calls them vox, as if voice in Latin is oh so fucking special. It's also a really easy game. It'd be fine if I were playing on the easy mode, but I wasn't. Pax is always regenerating her health, meaning if you get hit, you can just shuffle on the ground until you're ready again. Heck, by then you might have your taunt attack back up. This is a heavy attack that reaches any enemy at any distance. Pax gains this power by insulting the enemy with amazing lines like,
Hello, loser. Coming at you. Girl power. Bitch attack.
Can we talk about bitch attack? How did the writer's pen not turn its ink to acid and dissolve the page in protest? How is the pen surviving today with that heavy karmic debt? We then meet another party member, an ex-horned rider named Eli. He's kinda alright because he's happy, carefree, and kind. He has the power to create images with his voice, and it makes him a good storyteller. He's fine, I guess. At first I thought I was gonna like him, but as the plot goes on, he does almost nothing. His main goal is to find his long-lost best friend Ophelia, but in practice he's just another character that backs us up in combat. We also found out that our runaway robot used to be one of Eli's caretakers. Because of that, we have renamed her to CT. The facility has given her a soul. She's now full of life and energy and wants to know what to do with her existence, so I tell her, great, now drive the fucking bus. If I can break the surface for a second, beneath the terrible dialogue, you can actually tell that a lot of thought went into the characters' backstories. The writers probably know everything they've been through for a long, long while. Pax has a timeline that spans her whole life, from her leaving Camp Cedar, to her days as a con artist, to testing her powers in Lebanon, to getting the job to go to Nova Scotia. I'm not saying it's particularly great. In Pax's case, it makes her a little confusing to keep track of. It does imply that the characters do have a lot of thought behind them that is tragically buried under a gigantic amount of aggressive callouts and mediocre sex jokes. We escape the school and are jumped by horned riders again, allowing us to sample more of Dustbin's fine in-combat dialogue.
They really love fire, don't they?
It's a sign of a primitive culture.
What was that?
No, I said it's a sign of a primitive culture.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said dim-witted vulture.
Why would I say dim-witted?
I don't know. I wasn't the one who said it.
Certain allies join you in combat, those ones being Sai, Ziggy, Eli, and one we haven't met yet. The teamwork isn't much to get worked up on. In practice, it just means you can add an attack after your shout if you have a party member that resonates with it. Technically, Eli only creates images with his power, but they can be used physically if the writer thinks they should be physical in that interaction. Motherfucker. Turns out the horned riders aren't actually that bad, just opportunistic, and the boss they've made me fight 3 times was only Eli's ex. They did take Theo and Gnome hostage, but they were treated well with options like sparkling water. So we reward them with the white people genocide song. Finally, we go to the camp again, this time with a full party behind us. Eli and the caretaker are full new party members here to stay. I've sort of entered a trance when I enter these sections. After hearing these people talk non-stop, I'm not sure I really need a one-on-one with them to hear their stupid thoughts. No, don't touch me. I'm doing this for your sake. The camp sections are best when you want to influence a character's coda. It's one of 3 routes that they can go down depending on what Pax says to them. Sai's codas are based on her overwhelming feelings and what she does with them. If she manages them, allows them to empower her, or makes them embitter her. Gnome's codas influence whether they want to stay with Pax romantically, go back home, or distance themselves from the group entirely. Then Theo's changes how his working relationship with the gang is formed. Ziggy and Eli's are sort of the same. Whether they're optimistic and want to work with the Weave, wish to abandon politics, or become pessimistic entirely. CT is somewhat philosophical. I don't care about CT, okay? They're gonna hit her with a fucking train in a few hours.
There's no other hidden me. This is it. All of me. And more. I'm finally alive.
Nobody's talking to you. Just drive the bus driver.
I woke up the next morning and I guess somewhere in that schoolhouse level Ziggy thought it was okay to touch me. So Pax has a goofy mustache on her face that I have to lovingly wear until I do myself the grand service of watching her take a shit. You might have noticed that Pax always says kid when referring to the audience. The story is also told in Pax's head, as if she were recounting it to someone. We're constantly shown flashbacks to Pax's time in a research facility, using her power with a lab technician named Jacob, sometime after they had a romantic relationship, and then he left for Nova Scotia. Meaning Pax's secondary motivation is to make it to Nova Scotia because he's waiting there for her. Gnome is still a romantic option, but in this playthrough I'm keeping Gnome at a distance. At first I was doing it as a joke, but now that I'm looking at this bathroom, I've realized that I'm saving the poor bastard from a love triangle. We're at the next stop. New Jerusalem. I don't know what the subtext is of that. This library is helmed by a woman with the worst smoker's throat I've ever seen, and her pet raccoon.
I wasn't sure who you were, so I decided to disguise myself as a statue.
But she's gonna give us a place to stay while we ready up for the next leg of the trip. And credit where it's due, this looks fucking awesome. I'm a bit of a sucker for neon anything, though neon surrounding a statue of Jesus is new. It's not a cheap imitation of a mall either. Each corner of this building has its own decor. Shit, if Dustborn had good music, you can make a lo-fi girl video out of this. The echoes hidden everywhere creates a good incentive to check it all out too. I'm so honored to earn the power to cancel here in the presence of our Lord. The game even did something I didn't think it was capable of. It has levity. Once we restore power, we get access to the arcade. Ziggy is trying to flirt with Eli and we can totally crash by beating their ass at Pong. Then it turns out Theo is actually really damn good at Pong too. Ziggy is kinda acting like a dog protecting its bone, but we get to spend time with Theo. He manages himself and there's an air of intelligence around the guy. When he hides his feelings from us, it's because he's calculating the risk, not being a total baby. We also learned that Lonnie, the smoker in charge of the joint, has a computer. If we plug in our flash drive, we might be able to learn what we're carrying, what it is that Nova Scotia wants. We wake up late at night to talk to Gnome, and something their business is actually tanking. Well, that VR chat level of yours had me fooled. The more interesting thing is that Theo is awake, and he's kind of curious about Lonnie's PC too. Theo is half committed to the idea, Pax is 100% committed to the idea, so we have no choice. We have to use one of our powers on him. One of these dickhead answers will get him to work with us and see what's on the flash drive. Thankfully, I've learned to bully people. Theo and Pax bribe Lonnie's raccoon with some peanuts, and in return, get a scene where the raccoon prances over to Lonnie,
Stupid trash panda.
He comes back with the wrong thing, send him back, he gets these gross lady dentures.
The voice box.
One final clarify, and then he gets us the key to Lonnie's room. All of this culminates in that the flash drive has a bunch of files on it. A long list of words. That's it. Dustborn wasted your time for no reward, only for a love of the game. Plugging into the PC has given out a small signature that allows the Puritans to find us. It turns out the flash drive is their property. The Puritans are a cult obsessed with the pursuit of knowledge at all costs. Honestly, I was kinda digging this when I saw them. Dustborn has such a modern-day aesthetic that when these guys show up, they're kind of disruptive. Opposed to the grungy horned riders, the sweaty deserts, the rugged communes, getting this cold, white, futuristic look is a real shakeup. We meet the main villain of Dustborn, the overseer of the Puritans.
I wanted a chance to chat with you before things escalate. What did you call me?
Techno-Pope Overseer.
So anyway, they chide and embarrass the villain for a few minutes. If she was ever going to be a threat, I'm not inclined to take her as one now. Maybe the tone of the game wouldn't have supported it, but I really see no reason to make this character look like a buffoon. You can criticize the ideals you would put behind her, but let someone threaten these fucking people. Don't roll your eyes and techno-pope her, because then I don't take her seriously either. Not that it matters much. She shows up one more time. We have more history with the diner robot. Thankfully, we escape, and, for once in the game's life, we take the freak we find in the level and leave them there. Get off my bus. Take your fucking raccoon with you. We make camp and you know the drill here. Time to repeat everything and have the same conversations again. Oh wow, Sai, you feel a bit upset about today. Tell me about it. But our robot friend has a twist for us. They know something about Pax.
You're with child. I'd like to offer any assistance you may need.
Not another word.
Oh, that actually explains a lot. This is why she needs to go to the bathroom so much. The guy in Lebanon got her pregnant. When Pax is speaking to us, the player, the kid, she's referring to her baby. That's you. You are Pax's baby. Pax is your mother. Good luck.
You think?
I know.
You know, I've heard enough. I'm sorry, am I the only one who sees the problem here?
Oh god, Ziggy as an aunt too. She'd throw it out a window and then blame the baby. And then blame Pax 10 minutes later. Whatever, we end the level with another show. We gotta play a gig here.
We chase the ghosts in the mean machine.
The next area is Colorado, and I gotta say, the game is really keeping it up with the environments. I love just standing and existing in these spaces. Pax didn't change her outfit at all though, so I guess you're freezing in that womb of hers, kid. We also get attacked by Justice again. They introduce a new enemy type that's sort of a giant box mech guy. However, it is no match for throwing my bat at it. What was calling us to this rest stop was another party member, a mute little girl that uses her powers through her mind. She will not speak though, so no one knows her name or anything. They just call her Girl for the rest of the trip. Sure, sit on the bus, be quiet, be my problem in a few levels from now. They say they're dropping her off, but she's been added to my list of characters. Her ass is in here for the long haul. I must also give Dustborn props because it has given me the option to use the bathroom again, but this time I did not flush the toilet. As we leave the bathroom, we are confronted by Justice Walker, the police officer that has been assigned to the Dustborn case. He doesn't know we're the person he's looking for, but we know his next step, the Yellow Brick Road Motel, the location of our next library. We find out that they're on their way there in an hour, so we get there first. We just need to find its librarian, Soul, and get him out. At this point, I kinda quit on getting a good ending, so I'm gonna let Sai kick down every door. Sai just got blown apart by a shotgun.
When the body's works expired, for then my thoughts from where I abide intend the zealous.
Oh my goodness, and then a tiny man starts coming out and it starts damn it. This is Soul. Soul has the power to heal people with his voice, but only if he's reciting poetry. We need to get him out of here before Justice shows up, and that means escorting his data out too, or taking his funny pair of dice. He's in the party menu too? Okay, they've added a 9th character to the bus. He just wants us to get his plant. Okay, fine, I'll get your plant. I'm not even upset. If you're gonna add anybody, a short, stout Italian guy is never a bad choice. I don't know why he talks like he's right out of a New York pizza joint, or selling me items in Deadlock. The guy is in Colorado, meanwhile Italians are eternally chained to the East Coast. Fucking Norwegians. Soul can act as our Josuke, healing anyone should they get hurt. Like Gnome suffers a headache and Soul hits them with the "to see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower," meaning we can add him onto the side of solves problems. We have a larger problem. The cops have our scent after the motel. They're hunting down our safe houses, taking apart the libraries before we can reach them. Meaning we need a new route. See that big zone on the map that says danger? Well, the shotgun on the wall is gonna have to go off because we need to go through it. Specifically stopping through Lebanon, Kansas, the place Pax got knocked up, and where that weird tree in the center of the world is leading to. Unfortunately, there's still a ton of game to go, so I know we're gonna have another 2 hours of backstory, or Pax story if you will. As a small aside, the game is broken up by these comic books. I know that sounds like a video game that gives you homework, but hear me out. They sort of catalog your actions and recap the story. It's a super cool way to keep the story concise and understandable, as well as teaching you what paths were diverging ones. I appreciate them because for a game as yap-filled as Dustborn, this cuts down a ton of the fat. It condenses each chapter into 3, maybe 4 pages. That said, the art is hit and miss. Some pages are definitely better than others. However, there are some I really want an excuse to show you. Pax's in-game model is fine, but just look at this page of hers. It really captures Pax's guarded nature while also looking really badass in its own way. We do not have the same design. We do not have the same design. I do not look like Pax. Frankly, the Ashen Exclusion Zone is the coolest level in Dustborn. In fact, you're probably only going to hear positive things for a bit. Take your stress toy and go to town for a bit. You might need it depending on who you are. One thing I really like is being on the bus and seeing what the environment looks like from the inside. In the Exclusion Zone, you roll in and you can't see anything in front of you. It brings a lot of those previous drives into focus. The gang tells scary stories until... Soon after, we notice that the kid has gone missing, so Pax sets off into the giant sandstorm to find her. The only problem is that whatever we hit did this to the tour bus. It's really good at setting up mystery. It's not long until we get hurt and Eli comes to help, followed up by the pair coming across a new enemy type. This is the Bionic, a heavy hitter enemy that carries a shield which has to be broken before you can attack him. They're okay. Unfortunately, they still aren't dispersed with other enemy types, so we can't brainwash the Bionic to beat Justice to death or convince them to copulate with us. We find the kid in a diner with this strange fellow in a gas mask. She's just a person that lives in the ashes. However, she has the power to transfer strong amounts of pain to other people with her voice. But she's ending up on the bus, isn't she? The kid is constantly heading towards this giant facility that seems to be where the tree is. It's in a justice facility, and there are still those Bionics out there. Thankfully, there's just a single security guard, who, according to Pax, is alone and vulnerable. We have to break through an army of Bionics or justice soldiers. At the base of the tree is a giant squid monster, menacing us at every step, but seemingly not interested in harming us. And when we finally get there, we're gonna communicate with it by rocking out as hard as we can. Just to be clear, I live for this kind of absurdity. Even in a story I don't hate, this is so crazy that I'm drawn to it. I think they knew they were onto something too, so they decided that Pax would keep her mouth shut. The song has no lyrics, just trying to summon a deity through rock and roll. This is enough to allow us to enter the root of the Tree of Tongues, which I regret to inform you is an incredibly badass name. We learn that the tree is a product of something called the proto-language. This is what made the broadcast and what fuels our powers. It's described as a sort of code to the universe. If you can speak that code, the universe will bend to you. It's heavily implied that what the gang can do is just scratching the surface. Affecting people is level 1, but a particularly powerful anomal could affect reality. Whatever we did, this makes the tree vanish. And we end those revelations, and the game's next thing is to just randomly show us that the girl we're with is actually Ophelia, the woman Eli was looking for. Which confuses me so deeply. You just went into a giant dive into your lore, the basis of your magic, the nature of Pax's powers, the vanishing of a tree that has been constantly looming in the distance, and now you suddenly want to resolve a minor plotline that no one gave a shit about and added in another new character. What are you thinking, Dustborn? Ophelia is here to stay. By the way, writers, stop shortening people's names for a stupid nickname. That is not how people talk. Eli would just call her Ophelia. Shortening it to O is just dumb. I'm Rowby. You can call me Row if you pay for it on Patreon. I guess the camp is nice. I appreciate a good city view. And then the worst thing happens. Dustborn makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Want these, Siggy? For gaming?
I'm more of a digital gamer, but these are cool. I'm sure we can rig up some road trip game with these.
Aren't those from my hotel? And now you're giving them away right in front of my goddamn face? You know, ballsy motherfucker you are.
Well, that means you've earned his respect.
It's been a long while since I picked up the dice, so I forgot what they were. And the voice actor's delivery is pretty good. Decent joke. Good use of your Italian guy. We wrap up camp for the night, but Sai has been staying up late. When you sit down with her, there's something that's clearly on her mind. But before she can share it, Gnome shows up. Then Theo, and Dustbin's biggest twist gets dropped. They have a good time together. They don't talk about anything too crazy, just about how the party has gotten so swamped with newcomers, and that they don't feel like they have time for each other anymore. But they actually sound like they enjoy each other's company a bit.
Feels like the four of us haven't had time to just sit together since
Nevada.
And that was
stressful. Like almost every day since.
every day a day.
I was thinking of that day in Gnome's apartment, but yeah.
Despite the stress, you've all taken the time to listen. I appreciate that because I know I'm not always easy.
Maybe it's just air resurfacing after a long time of drowning, but I like it. Everyone's nice, they're being open about themselves. There's a group hug. Ziggy is sleeping somewhere far, far away from us. I can't say it's super earned. I am curious why this moment is in the middle of the game. There's an air of finality to the way the characters are talking. The game is even tallying up all the times I've bailed on them. Can I still bail? There's half a country left to cross, dude. This map is not telling me the game is ending. Are we skipping some of these? Don't worry though, the next level is bad again! Woohoo! It's effectively a rest stop where the gang finds an abandoned house. There's this bit where you're in a dark basement, looking for a way to turn on the lights, and I was so irritated for the 5 minutes that I'm including it in this video. You have to hold R2 to shine a small light on an area while moving like a forklift. The visibility is insanely low. Pax's body gets in the way of the light, and the area is so tiny that you end up bumping into the camera with the walls. Sorry, I just really needed to share that real quick. The main point of this level is that Ophelia can't control her powers, which could be disastrous for the mission if she's kept. So the team considers leaving her behind. Of course, Ophelia can't be the center of attention when Sai is around. She makes a big deal out of it, and someone else's problems are all about her for some reason. Sai rationalizes that she'll get over it if we keep Ophelia. However, Pax believes that there is something deeper bothering Sai. Pax decides to use all of her powers at hand to try and cheer Sai up. What follows is utter gold.
Cheer up!
That's the worst pep talk I've ever had.
Be happy.
Ow! Bitch, I'm working on it, okay?
Don't be sad.
A little too late for that.
Come on, smile.
What? Who are you?
This feeling is normal.
Yes, it fucking is. And that makes it worse.
You're happy.
That's the stupidest thing you've said all day.
I put the failure here on the acting and the writing. This should be a moment where Pax feels powerless and monstrous, that she's only capable of hurting, not helping. It should feel sad, like you're a broken person that can't even pretend to be the person you aspire to be. But the echoing boom and the be happy throws it so far into the uncanny valley that it comes out as absolutely hilarious. Not made better by Sai tossing out her weak one-liners and making it even worse. Suffice to say, it didn't work. Oh no, I slipped and fell. What do you think?
Of course, I'm no medical professional, but that human inside of you is doing just fine.
Whoa there, human? In under a month? David, who let you in the writing room? Anyway, at dinner, Eli asks the gang about the heist. The one all the way back here, before Pax triggered a cop so hard he walked into traffic. Eli brings this up to probably distract from the fact that his friend is a nuclear bomb. It's time for a flashback, and no, that really is the effect. If you don't smell burning toast, I promise nothing is wrong here. They lazily slapped a filter over the game and animated the characters on a 2D plane. It doesn't look good. They traced some of the portraits with a pixel brush, I think. I've been playing Dustborn over the course of several weeks, and one of the things I thought to myself was that Dustborn would have been happier as a turn-based RPG. Whether or not I wrote this section after the fact is just something you'll have to trust me on, because the next 20 minutes of Dustborn is a turn-based RPG, where each attack is a single frame of animation. Yeah, I know, 20-minute section, though if every other animation looks like shit, I don't think you discriminate. It also lacks a tutorial despite having a degree of depth to it. There are status effects, an order where the characters appear. Some attacks hit the person at the front of the line, others move them up or back. There's only 4 fights in the segment, but they go on a good while. Pax works as your DPS. Her attacks inflict status debuffs and shuffle them along the area. Theo is more of a character that acts on status effects, being able to deal critical hit damage to knock down targets, or lay a trap that hurts enemies when they move. Sai is a tank that they gave 1 tanking ability to, and Gnome is a support, equipped with a cleanse, heal, and ability to move enemies. And you know, this section was almost cooking. This isn't amazing, but I sorta wish it was the main combat system. The metaphor that they molested the English language to use still sits on the sidelines. However, the current one is really sloppily put together, and even if it were competent at the very little it does, it would just be mediocre. There's so much that could have been done here. Expansion on the character's powers in a way that would have been more impactful, unique ways to show how words can be weapons, a fun way to play with the comic book aesthetic. It might have even pulled more players. Turn-based RPG fans are desperate. The section is still bad. The story of it goes, we went in, beat up some guys, Pax got shot by a security turret, and they left. Nothing we didn't know when we booted up the game. There was no point to show me this except to display an underdeveloped RPG system. You want to know the funny part? There was something that happened here. A small twist that changes the dynamic of the group. You don't see it until another flashback later, one without a chunky rework of the game's visual style or new combat system. I sorta respect the whole, I want to put a damn RPG section in my game and I don't care how, but you gotta do something. Back at dinner, for no reason at all, Sai starts cursing out everyone. Everyone.
Look, Sai, this is one of those laugh or cry situations.
Really? You want to lecture me about using humor as a coping mechanism? Aren't you people sick of living like this? I guess I shouldn't be surprised, since we're being led by someone who can't go anywhere without picking a fight. I can't with you people. The incompetence, the violence, the power trips. When does it end?
What the hell is your problem?
She just rotates people to yell at. A lot of options float past Pax, and I chose to say none of them. I know this game. Sai cried for 5 minutes straight, flipping out and melting down, all while Pax just fucking mogged at her.
Fuck all of you. I'm not doing this anymore. Good luck making it to Nova Scotia.
Oh god, she's leaving, and she ain't coming back. I don't know how she's going to leave. There's a giant electric zone full of bionic apes behind us and endless road anywhere else, but bye. I hope wherever you go it has another bathroom for you to cry in. I didn't do this, by the way. The game tallied it up, and I actually did not curse out Sai a whole lot. Just like Pax would have, I have assessed all of my actions and deemed myself of no fault. The game does have branching paths, but because of the low player count, no one has really uploaded a compendium on them. So I'm just relying on my comic book to tell me what was or wasn't branching. Our next stop is Minneapolis, and this is really impressive. We've never been somewhere like this yet. After long barren streets with maybe one person on it, I love that Dustborn was just keeping something this glitzy and impressive hanging around the corner for a later level. And it's a drinking night. You just get to watch everybody get wasted. Pax has to be the DD since she's pregnant. So I guess I'll hold back Ziggy's hair. What's up with this bar? Why are the liquor bottles stuck around the shelf so haphazardly? We do get the attention of the cops, but nobody panic. I bought this homeless guy's mixtape, and he's gonna save us by saying goodbye to Bulma, Trunks.
Even for you, Kakarot.
Just like the RPG section, I found most of this to be pretty unimportant. Oh, okay, I guess that character on the cover is someone we're gonna meet soon, I guess. The mood ain't great. I made the mistake of talking to Gnome back at the bar, and now they hate me forever. And at this point, Theo is so attached to the group that he can no longer make tough choices. Also, we did just cause an explosion in a city square, and get identified by the police, so they know who they're looking for. On the bright side, this is one of our last stops. Here in Detroit, someone is going to escort us the rest of the way. They just wheel out our last party member! For real this time. This is Nine. Disabled rep is fine, but it feels like they were just trying to make you grossed out with Nine. Her weird arm that contrasts in color, to her 8-ball hovercraft and that haircut? I can blame the rest on incompetence. That haircut was made to be called ugly. I don't get it. The game is almost over. Who or what is she? You can go fuck yourself apparently because Justice descends on the squad and she vanishes. We were betrayed by sneezy McRatface over here. Nine then just enters the plot's break room. They've got snipers aimed at us and want to take us in, but the CT bot crashes the bus into them, and suddenly, the snipers are in the plot's break room too. I'm not a big plot hole guy, but even I have a line, and threatening me with snipers then removing them without explanation is where that line ends. I found my limit on plot holes, and it's the first thing that Dustborn will ever teach anyone. This is the second to last combat encounter in Dustborn. Credit where it's due, the Justice fights do actually have some enemy variety. There are long-range enemies that you need to take out at range, alongside regular soldiers and the heavy box boys. So you could start to add a small amount of tactical diversity, if you wanted to. The game hasn't trained anything into me, meaning the combat stays at the same level of intensity and investment that first fight in Pacifica had. Justice Walker and his partner Kim are leading the strike team against us. These are the same ones we found trailing us all over the country. Walker seems a bit confused by us, but after he gets hurt, Kim stabs Pax and leaves her on the train track. Yeah! And then CT jumps in front of it, getting smashed to pieces. We're brought into a truck and escorted out. Soul uses his poetry on Pax, but we pass out anyway. And wake up in the hands of Justice. What? Soul's magic didn't work? It was a stab wound. Why set up Soul as being able to heal a fucking shotgun blast to the face, but a knife wound? You know what? We're past the line. You have taken away the things I believe about myself. They arbitrarily decided this knife has grievous wounds on it. Okay, let's swing the pendulum the other way for a bit. I enjoy how they portray Justice in this story. While they certainly look the part, they're not your average Nazi. In fact, they're quite normal and rational. Walker doesn't speak in hard falsehoods or prayers. He speaks in soft rationalizations.
We know you're not monsters, Pax. The disorder infected you when you were children.
His partner Kim is probably what you might be thinking of more because she did just stab you. But most of the times you run into Justice, they're more bumbling than anything and committed to being polite where they can. I enjoy a good dumb Nazi as much as the next guy, but I also appreciate writers that recognize that fascism isn't some magic spell. People find ways to believe the things they do, and they don't just try to hate. They try to find ways to hate that make sense to them. The Puritans crash the party. For those who need a refresher, it's the techno angels we fought in the mall so very long ago. And Walker just says that Pax should be let go. I don't know, feels like an ass pull to me. He says some sort of, I hate you, but I hate the Puritans more. It feels like the writers wanted to get Pax to New York City and have an in-depth conversation with the cops who have been assigned to her case, but also wanted out of it as soon as possible. Which is why Cy shows up to carry us out. I imagine the most obnoxious person cheering at that. Cy left in Iowa because she's a mole, a traitor, a no-good son of a bitch. She always worked for Justice, and her freak-out in Iowa was just an excuse to leave us so that she could deliver her information to her bosses. However, when she went back home, she found out that her family hated her so much that it wasn't even worth keeping ties with Justice to protect them, meaning she had a change of heart and was able to help the gang locate Pax in this hospital. However, this doesn't mean she's rejoining the party. She's staying in New York. She no longer feels comfortable traveling with us. She feels too guilty and would like to stay with the resistance in the city and make some positive change there. Soul decides to stay in New York City as well, like releasing a wild fish back into its natural environment. Probably because the writers realized he outlived his usefulness. They no longer need to heal characters. Just like that, we leave New York City. I'm not saying I want more game here, but you're really gonna go through America's best city with just a hospital and an alleyway? What follows is a speed run of the rest of the United States. Effectively, the map is less like this and more like this. Every state and stop from here on is a small footnote, meant to quickly get us up to Maine. Don't believe me? Here's Pax cleaning up a dead rat. She's willing to do it when it's on the side of the road, but not when it's in her own home. Picking up the pace here seems like a good move. The story is losing steam fast. Characters are wrapping up, and we need to see what the hell is going on in Nova Scotia. If I can cast the V word for real, this is a vibe. The moments before Nova Scotia are some of my favorites. They're going hard on these last vistas. We arrive at a Betty's Diner before our next stop. A drop point and boat will take us to Nova Scotia soon after. This is the final calm in Dustborn. We are so close to the end, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel some form of closure here. Even I am not immune to a giant scene where all of the characters sit around and sing together during dinner.
There are good ways to cry. Ooh, hey, sing along if you know what I mean.
Maybe I shouldn't be allowed to enjoy this. If I couldn't handle Dustborn at Ziggy, I don't know if I deserve to have it at its...
There are good ways to die. Ooh.
The song vibes too. It's about how it's okay to feel hurt and how you should talk to people about it. It's not we're the Dustborn, we're the new porn. I'm the old norm, I want normal or should I say, the old gnome? The last level of Dustborn opens the same way it started, with a hard cut after some kind of disaster. Apparently, while driving up the coast, just as we were reaching our destination, the crew was attacked. You don't see this, only the argumentative aftermath. I appreciate the symmetry. I also wanted to show you this because it's my only death in Dustborn.
How'd they find us?
I don't know, maybe some of us put it down, maybe they followed the ad. Look, it doesn't matter. Let's leave while we still can't keep fighting each other.
We should make a run for it.
Nice. The adjunct is the final boss of Dustborn, the right-hand man of the Puritan Overseer. He is awful. First off, I don't even know why they picked this guy. His supervisor is the one we're familiar with, and even then, it was like a Zoom call. He hasn't made any connection with the player. It could have been the fucking old woman with emphysema and been better. He is a boring character to put Pax against. You just have to throw your bat to disable his shields and occasionally dodge some beams from the side. The most unique thing in the whole fight is that they arbitrarily made the taunt QuickTime event more difficult. Something really strange happens. The adjunct is subdued by Walker. Justice Walker. The cop had a change of heart. Justice is here to save you. The lefty megagame ends with the police exerting their authority over the evil cult and helping the protagonist finish their goals. If my haircut were weirder, I'd probably have a better way to dissect that. Sadly, there's still one more threat. The Puritan Overseer has our team hostage. It turns out the flash drive we've been holding is a codex for the whole proto-language. The Puritans are on the verge of discovering how to alter reality with their voices. Pax is able to inspire her team, which is enough for Theo to pull out an EMP, saving the day. I was ready for some real stuff to go down. I'm kinda shocked this is the climax. It was just as bad as the adjunct. Theo gives one of those speeches about how this was only possible because Pax brought them together. I don't know if I really did that. I just cursed them out, and eventually they got over it. And then... Okay. Then, a space child emerges from the water, inflicts a migraine on Pax, and disintegrates Theo. The mute child walks up to Pax, puts her hand over Pax's womb, and Pax's unborn child proceeds to Thoom the space child out of existence. I don't know how to describe it any other way. I don't even know where to start here. This space child is apparently a creation of the Puritans and has access to a level of the proto-language that lets him mess with reality. That thing they teased in the Tree of Tongues. Also, they killed the only guy I liked. I'm not against them killing Theo. If anyone, he's probably the best one to kill from a storytelling perspective because I actually liked the guy. But I don't know, maybe he could have died in one of the other 15 plot threads we had before, instead of vaporizing him with a character that was foreshadowed for 1 minute and is immediately dealt with by unborn baby magic. Everyone lets out a little cry, except Eli, smiling jerk off. From there, the gang gets on the boat to Nova Scotia. The story branches depending on what coda each character had. Sai learns to be more responsible with their feelings, working with Sol in New York. Gnome goes back home to reconnect with their mother. Ziggy doesn't get on the boat, but instead becomes an enforcer for the Weave in the city. Eli, Ophelia, and the girl are guinea pigs, and Pax ends up becoming a librarian. They never show us Nova Scotia, for the mystique, but I found a picture of the place on Google Images, assholes. What do you think about that? That's it. That's Dustborn. Only took me 3 weeks, and something I will only miss once I notice it's gone. So what do I think? Dustborn feels like the kind of game by people who never knew when to pull back, and I am very thankful for it. There's boring bad, and there's freaky bad, and Dustborn is freaky bad. Concord is boring bad. It's a shooter without a single original idea in its head. Dustborn has 700 ideas in its head, and they're all about how great the other ideas are. The core issue with Dustborn's story is excess. That word fits in almost everywhere. Whatever they could do, they decided to do all of the things, and most of them were things they didn't need to do, resulting in a product that feels intensely bloated. I get that fun and adventure is just a part of the journey, but you have to win me over first, and Dustborn doesn't do that. Instead, we have several plot points floating around, and the story never does anything with them. Of the 10 characters on the bus, only 2 are directly related to the actual mission. Gnome is just there to serve their ex, Sai is there because someone needs to open the doors, Ziggy effectively got forced on the bus, Eli got scooped up for the fun of it, the kid is the Deus Ex Machina, Sol is a plot device until they decide he isn't, Ophelia is presented as a threat that divides the group, which is never brought up again, and CT gets smashed by a train, and somehow I cared even less. Pax and Theo are the only 2 that make actual decisions that get the gang towards Nova Scotia, which is a shame because there are occasional good bits in the writing. A fun joke, a character that works. However, it undercuts itself because the writers seemed unable to write outside of their own voice. It feels like they wanted the characters to speak naturally, to leave stuff unsaid, but they also never stop talking. So you have 2 people misunderstanding each other for minutes at a time. There is no breathing room. Talking is all the gang does. I like characters intimately talking about their feelings, but not here. The fact that they never stop means that when the game lowers the stage and goes, "This is the real talk," it's like, no, we've been doing this for the past several hours. When a majority of the bombshells are dropped, they are never brought up in conversation again. Gnome's business fails and is being hunted by creditors. Doesn't matter. Yet you will still be there at the end of every camp with these people hearing the same fake deep conversations. Go down the list. Check all of them for 30 minutes. Clean the dishes because everyone else is too busy examining themselves to do any real fucking work. And the dialogue isn't endearingly written, so when a character melts down and it's supposed to be important, it just comes off as deeply embarrassing. And, only to reiterate, no, its left-leaning ideas didn't make it bad. Baldur's Gate 3 is about as woke. Dustborn wouldn't have been any better if it were about a right-wing band traversing the US while avoiding the great Twitter censure. I'm pretty sure this is good old incompetence mixed with a lot of arrogance. You can hate it for the arrogance. Trust me, I do. I don't fault it for the cringe. Cringe means you don't care what other people think. You want to be so unabashedly yourself that you're willing to accept the embarrassment that comes with it. We respect the House of Cringe. The problem I have with Dustborn overall is that it's really hard to discern what it's trying to say. It says words are powerful, and I go, okay, yeah, but what does it actually want to say about that? For a game that seems so staunchly bold in every other political claim it makes, it doesn't seem to want to give one for its main theme. It says words are powerful and stops there. Should we recognize words as too powerful and more thoughtfully leverage them? Or should we see ourselves as powerless to larger political forces and use them regardless of the hurt they cause? Normally, I'd accept a more open-ended question. Art doesn't have to have an answer, but Dustborn doesn't seem like the type of story that believes in that. You can't listen to their album of hot takes and go, well, maybe they were fence-sitters. It sucks because I actually believe the themes of this story are worth exploring, and a better writer could have done that. Some of the metaphors are pretty cool. We have given words power. Canceling and bullying are unironic political strategies in 2024. That's awful because they're very cruel practices rooted in pack mentality. The bigger the crowd, the more you feel like they couldn't possibly be wrong, and the more you want to be on the inside. They're effectively dirty tricks used on a chessboard of social media platforms. Sometimes used to deplatform a person you think spreads bad echoes. Other times to an ex-girlfriend you just don't like anymore. Perhaps that's not what the game meant by words are powerful, but then maybe you could have picked better words, Dustborn. The rest of it? It's alright sometimes. I know, I was bummed out about that too. Dustborn has a really well-visualized world, immaculate vibes, and even the S-word. For every terrible voice line or god-awful pacing choice, there's a funny joke or even a character I might like. It's maybe at a ratio of 4 to 1, but it's not 100 to none. I even sorta ended the game liking Pax. The story has a lot of irritating characters in it, but she's usually the one dealing with it, not dishing it out. Well, okay, maybe past the midpoint. And they do a decent job of animating the cutscenes. They struggle to animate the combat, but it's worth commending all of the animation they did for the conversations. For the high density of them, it never feels like the game is recycling poses. If anything, I want you to take away at least some of the good of Dustborn, which is mostly Theo, its cutscene system, and Charlotte Hatherley's Good Ways to Cry. There is good in Dustborn, at the end of it all, just not really enough to make it worth recommending. But it's there. In fact, I'm gonna say something that'll maybe get me in trouble. Dustborn has soul. Regardless of how obnoxious the writing is, or how objectionable you find the politics, the game really, really cares. Caring isn't enough to make you good, but it is enough to make you unforgettable. It's why I wanted to be in depth with the game. No matter how much it puts me in close quarters with Ziggy, it at least deserves someone who will try to reach it as it is, or at least finish the goddamn thing. Sadly, being the refined Dustborn hater means going, it mishandles its themes, the dialogue is awful, and the combat is garbage, but it's alright otherwise. Then again, maybe I'm just not the one to play it. One of you might be the leftist to dissect it, but a power level like that has yet to be seen. Unless you want to bore your local Discord with the ethics of triggering a cop so hard he splatters against a truck. I did that for over an hour. I'm done. I want to play a good game. Unlike you, Dustborn, I know when I've said enough. Get the camera out of my face. I'm gonna go be curious about Silent Hill and walkable cities or something next time. You want a long, uncomfortable car ride? Let's get it started. I've got an older version of Dustborn. It's about as exciting. Hey, thanks for watching. I was promising myself that I was going to commit to quicker videos for a bit, but that didn't end up happening. I hope you guys liked this one. I reached out with a lot of different people, collabed with a ton of fun artists, and I hope it shows in the end product. Also, I would like to thank the people on Patreon who made this video possible. I would especially like to thank Sturmfetter, Joke's on You, Anthony R. Chambers, Minnie McNugget, Pyrozine, Ethan A, Sparkbolt120, Mario Fan 997, and Syrup. Thank you for watching basically all of the video. I'm glad that you liked it enough to do that. And hopefully I'll see you again sometime soon. Peace out.